Doc today, not in my notebook.
And on that note, welcome back to the $1 Million Coach podcast. As you can tell, we're fully professional and prepared with notes. So that should reassure you that we know what we're doing here. Joined today by Ash and Sam, and just missing Christina today. She's off doing kindy orientation, I believe. Not for her, but for one of her wee ones. So that's always cute and fun. And Sam, you've got that upcoming in a few years, and
before you
Ash
know,
is on the other side of that. She's
it seems like, so we spent the weekend in New Hampshire with some friends of ours, and there were like 3 kids, and one of them's in school, and I'm like, there's just not that much difference between my boy Noah and their 5-year-old. So I was like looking into the future.
Yeah, time flies. Once they get up and start walking, that's it. They're away, literally and metaphorically. All right, guys. So today, our topic that we thought is worth digging into. So last week we got some really good feedback on our episode about, how we can hold ourselves back and have a lot of doubts around being and even considering ourselves entrepreneurs, and why that's a hard space to be in. So just to follow on from that, today shifting our mindset to think like an entrepreneur, and we're not talking about necessarily, walking around like you're Richard Branson, or, I guess if we're talking about CrossFit coaches or coaches in general, if you rock into the gym and your Armani suit's probably not going to be the right look for you. We don't mean to go all in that, but about assuming.
What's wrong with an Armani suit?
It's probably a little hard to do for Anne in that. I'm just going to say.
Hadn't thought about that one.
Yeah, depending on the fit.
I was going to say, maybe they'll make a version of that in Lulu.
Yeah, they'll get a squat-proof suit. Yes. But it can be hard for coaches to get away from the term of I'm just a coach rather than I'm an entrepreneur. And, something I wanted to throw in the mix as well, because it's something that has applied to me as well, is that entrepreneur and intrapreneur. So entrepreneur, you'll go out and you'll start the things. Intrapreneur, you're really great about working, within somebody else's structure and organization. Mm-hmm. This will also relate to them because it will give you ownership to do something within that structure. And even though you work better, rather than just getting on your own line and writing it, maybe you feel more comfortable in that space of, writing someone else's line or helping take care of it. And that's cool. This mindset shift and thinking in these concepts is going to apply to you as well. So I don't want anyone to feel that, oh, well, I don't want to go out and start my own, program. You can apply these principles and do what you do really well inside the affiliate to help your affiliate.
Yeah,
and I think that's an important thing to know, because the term, which is why we want to talk about it today, the term entrepreneur can be confronting and challenging for people. Let's just start there.
Confronting is a very polite way to put that.
Yeah.
You might be scared shitless.
Yeah, and social media and movies and marketing have done nothing to, make an entrepreneur. Everyone, if you say entrepreneur, they tend to think of Gordon Gekko or, greed is good and that whole lavish lifestyle. And I don't do very much and I've got all this money and all this sort of thing. It's got a very dodgy stereotype, for want of a better term. So we're going to dig into that a little bit, demystify that a little bit, and, help you figure out some strategies for helping yourself move forward in whichever path you're choosing.
Yeah.
Who wants to kick off?
I'm pretty excited about this one.
I don't want to yuck your yum. So go ahead. Let's go.
I don't know.
People say I have random sayings in Australia.
You've never heard that?
I have not heard that. No.
Yeah. So when someone yucks your yum, it's like, it's like saying, I love chocolate ice cream. Yeah, I know. I love chocolate ice cream. And someone else is like, oh, chocolate ice cream is awful, or something like that. So you're excited. I don't want to step on that. Go do things.
I'm today years old today when I heard that.
Yeah, right. Well, first I want to kind of, I guess, introduce how, we are obviously always talking to coaches, right? And all of our coaches all of our coaches are in the CrossFit space, right? We're FitFilliate. We work with affiliate owners. We work with affiliate coaches. Yeah. So to start that off, it can be challenging as a coach, I think, to step outside of the box of what do I have to do to be a good coach for the class in front of me, right? Mm-hmm. Because we've talked about this. We take RL1, RL2, RL3, whatever. You do all these coach development things. So, naturally, our standards and expectations of ourself are kind of what has been set in or through CrossFit and their educational, streams, right? So to begin to shift that thought from just CrossFit and what do I have to do in class as a coach mm-hmm. to then how can I become an entrepreneur mm-hmm. or even intrapreneur, right? Either mm-hmm. way. Just starting with what you know in CrossFit, right? You have an abundance of options of where to start, first of all. If we talk about CrossFit and who it attracts, it's, the people mm-hmm. alone. You have adaptive groups, you have age groups, you have trauma, you have addiction, you have athletes that were athletes when they were 16, now they're 50 and want to work out again. You have people who are sedentary and have never done anything in their life. So that alone gives you a broad group of people to reach. Yeah. And then as far as, creating your niche within CrossFit, again, nutrition, sleep, the loads of movements we offer, the psychology involved, the community aspect, there is a plethora of subtopics that you may be drawn to or may find yourself thriving in that area more than others when you are coaching a class, right? So starting there, I think, we've talked about this before, to find your niche, though, is again, kind of step one for the entrepreneur.
Yeah. And that's a huge transition. The difference between a coach's mindset and an entrepreneurial or intrapreneurial mindset, right? Mm-hmm. And it's said even simpler because you can apply the same line of thinking to the coach who says, oh, I want to open my own affiliate. It's the difference between thinking about the things that you talk about in class in terms of directly affecting the people who are in front of you versus the content that you provide as a means of reaching a wider audience or, even later on productizing, right? So like affiliate owners can think of, well, I do CrossFit, that's the thing that I sell. And we've talked about this before, like yes and no, like you offer CrossFit, but what you sell is you sell freedom from pain. You sell freedom from infirmity or sarcopenia or whatever, insert affliction of special population here, that kind of thing. So your scope of influence can vary wildly when you start to shift that thinking. Even and I love that we're talking about intrapreneurial rather than entrepreneurial. And we talked about this in the 5 Steps to 6 Figures webinar. You can and should partner with your affiliate owner. Like you don't have to do things alone. Please don't do things alone. Like go further together. Absolutely. So in partnering with your affiliate owner, you can start to transition in how you're thinking, like not just thinking about the individuals or small groups, but who's your broader audience? What are the types of people that are asking you questions? So every coach has people who come up to them and say, I want to do X, or I have trouble with ABC, right? That person is not just that person. That person is indicative of a demographic or a type of person, right? So if I'm asking Ashley, I have trouble with my pull-ups, right? As an example, it's not Ashley can look at me and she's like, oh yeah, I can help Sam, versus I can help people like Sam, right? Mm-hmm. And people like Sam can be a broad meaning thing, but just that little change in language broadens it look beyond the four walls of the affiliate and the 8:30 a.m. class, and that can be a powerful shift. So if I start thinking about how I'm going to help Sam, I might set up a personal training appointment or do whatever it takes to get Sam into the gym, and not doing 6 workouts a day, but really just, doing his dedicated skill work for pull-ups, and then give me one solid workout a day in class, right? If I transition to people like Sam, now all of a sudden I can do the same things. I just have to deliver them in a different way. And already you are looking at like, this could be a thing. And like, I'm going to use a crazy word here. It could be a product that you sell, right? Because I guarantee I'm not the only dude or lady, whatever, who needs help with their pull-ups, And so why not make something that can help people like Sam rather than just Sam?
And, as we keep saying that thanks to the wonders of the time we live in, your audience is unlimited. If you have one of these, you can communicate with the world and probably beyond, but we're not going to debate that. But you can communicate with the entire world.
Right.
So, when we talk about, but there's a lot of people putting out pull-up videos.
Yep.
And there's about 20 billion people in the world. Like, someone will resonate more with what you have to say. They might not be able to understand the concepts like of the way that someone else explains it. That's just, or you couple it with a bit of mindset stuff, or tying it into sleep or nutritional recovery or any of those slightly different slant. There's people out there.
Yeah.
You just have to talk to them. And I had an interesting conversation with somebody the other day about, who were not a fan of social media. I'm like, it's a tool. It's just one lever to pull. If you want to have more people talking to you face to face, you got to get in front of more people to know that you even exist.
Yeah.
It's an important tool.
It's interesting to hear that being said. Frankly, I'm not a fan of social media either, but I recognize that I can use it or I can be used by it, and the algorithm wants my attention. It's the only thing it's programmed to understand. By the way, anyone who's listening to this, if you've never seen the movie, it's a Netflix documentary. What's it called? You know what I'm talking about. Yep. It'll come to me. I'll come back. No, not The Social Experiment. Anyway, so
Social Dilemma.
Thank you. The Social Dilemma. Thank you. It's a shockingly terrifying view into how these things operate and why they present to you what you see and stuff like that. But I love the comment about the cell phone. Like, how many people do you know, right? Like, and as coaches, we think about the box. We think about call it 200 members in your box, right? Well, that's the people. Those are the people who want the thing. No, it's not. How many people follow you on Instagram, as an example? I bet you it's more than 200. So, like, right there's a captive audience of people who already have decided that what you do is worth looking at.
Even thinking, in bigger terms, the people in the box, well, you could talk to anybody in any box. For example, you could have one of these mega affiliates that's got 600 members, and there's a person who just wants some simple stuff on pull-ups, and they don't, just because of size and scale, they don't, necessarily have that. So they're like, I just want something I can go and practice in the corner by myself, and I'm getting this from here.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Like, that's the changing that mindset to removing the barriers. So an entrepreneur doesn't see barriers and obstacles, they see opportunities, which is a very big shift to, instead of listing all the reasons why you couldn't, shouldn't, or wouldn't, it's like, well, why not me?
Yeah. Like, I think, so I love the sentiment, but I want to add a little twist to it, right? Because when we say an entrepreneur sees opportunities, that implies that there wasn't a transition period or that the transition period is done. I believe an entrepreneur or a person who exhibits an entrepreneurial mindset is continuously looking and trying to look. It's not like I haven't flipped a switch in my brain and I don't see limitations. I see limitations all the time, mostly having to do with me. And so that's like a process continually to open the box that I have built around my brain and pull my brain out and be like, brain, look at all the cool stuff you could do, you know? And one of the things that's really helped that has been discussing those things with like-minded people, with other coaches, and helping them work through their difficulties, you know, first steps and stuff like that. You know, that you can even call it like visionary thinking, right? Like thinking, if the box that you're in is shared by enough people, then something that is even one step further than the box sounds like a visionary thought, right? It doesn't need to be world changing. I don't need to be an Elon Musk, but opening up the box and opening up your mind and trying to look in the direction of what is further, what is beyond, what is just slightly outside of my comfort level, right? The power in that is incredible. At least it has been for me. And I hear similar things from other people.
And so to take you down that path a little bit, Sam, is...
Uh-oh.
I thought the same thing, but I didn't say it.
I'm not going down into the rabbit hole of Sam's brain.
Here she goes.
Okay.
Y'all are along for the ride now.
But the point I'm trying to get to is those realizations that you came to, you didn't necessarily get there just by Sam sitting on an island.
Nope.
No.
Nope.
So, you know, we need help. And, you know, with $1 Million Coach Program, we're about coaching. We're at FitFilliate. We're about coaching, not about just giving you more, you know, shit to do on your list that you're just going to be overwhelmed with and not going to do. And so having a coach or someone to help you move yourself out of the way, and it's almost, you know, sometimes I visualize it as, you know, pulling a blind up on a window and then you go, oh, I see now. I'm not just, this is all I could see.
Yeah.
This was my view. But, you know, you didn't come to those realizations about all of that stuff just by sitting on Sam's island going, this is it. This is all there is.
No, and that's truly the benefit of a coach is, so I love the analogy of the blind, right? So the coach is the person who says, hey, jackass, look over here. And they pull the blind down and it goes, and it goes up all the way, right? And I'm like, oh yeah, look, it's bright outside. But then there's like this secret third arm that is my brain that goes, no. And it pulls the blind back down. And so the power of the coach is they can continually pull my attention back to the blind and be like, hey, why do you keep telling yourself that this is beyond you? Why do you keep telling yourself, why do you keep boxing your brain in here? What story are you telling yourself where the ending is, sure, I believe you, but not for me? You know what I mean? And like that's, and that person who asks those questions, that could take a lot of different roles. So like a best friend can come and help you through that. But a best friend, maybe, is going to get sick of answering the same question or asking the same question over and over again. So like, and also like, professionally speaking, there's something to be said for contracting with another human being to tie the success of both people to that kind of thinking and the outcomes that can come out of it, right? Like I contract a coach to help me work through these things. That coach is invested in not letting me sit on my laurels. As a result, I have gone further faster. There's nothing that says I might not have figured those things out. However, I know for certain I would not have done it as quickly.
No, it left to your own devices. You'd peek out the blind. Nope. Peek maybe a little bit further. Nope. Just, you know, gradually. Maybe
I
maybe
would
not
have
even touch the blind.
I would have invented a story about how blinds don't exist and have never existed.
And, you know, it's when we talk about the difference of, you know, people who get into, you know, gurus and that sort of space, we're not giving you a white label product that you can just rebrand, repurpose, and sell. That's here. This has worked for 3 million other people to sell this book. Okay. Well, I'm just going to put my logo on it and sell it. Like this is the thing I've created. That's where Coaching is different. It's I'm going to tell you what to sell. We're just going to help you believe that you have something worth selling. Yeah. But you choose that. And you choose what it looks like and why, we'll help you peel back the layers to understand why it's important that your thing goes out to the world. And entrepreneurs will then go, oh, yeah, the world needs this. Like even if there's one person that this alters the course of their life, then this is like, I'm compelled to do this.
Yeah. What a great way to put that.
Really what like pushes an entrepreneur or an entrepreneur forward is like this specific thing is not being given enough attention, and I want to help make it heard so that people can have those aha moments and open the blind and realize that they're missing the thing, the light, the sunshine that's not coming in.
Yeah, that's risky. Like it feels scary. And like, that's another thing that is part of the entrepreneurial mindset is like, you're opening up your, the term that can be used is risk appetite, right? So like, what is your appetite or your tolerance for risk? And you hear this a lot if you talk to a financial advisor. There's a specific term and I can't remember it now, but it's like, what's your comfort level with risk? And if you're younger, you got a lot of time to, work with your finances, you're more comfortable. Risk tolerance. That's the phrase. Your risk tolerance is much higher. I'm more comfortable with riskier things. As you get later on in life, you've built a little bit of a nest egg. You don't want to threaten that. So your risk tolerance is lower, right? I want to make conservative movements. I don't want to, bet on Twitter or X or whatever the hell it's being called at this point, right? It's a little bit riskier. So you can begin in your familiar little environments, right? Your known variables. You can start with those things and slowly branch out, right? There's nothing that says, to your point about like, how fast did I go? I could have gone at a bunch of different speeds. Part of the reason that I contracted FitFilliate, part of the reason that I received a coach and had a coach who held my feet to the fire was because I was at a point where I was ready and willing to take some financial responsibility into my own hands. And like, to be clear, I am still employed by other people. Like I have a bunch of hats that I wear. So it's not like I'm over here like an Elon Musk or no, what's a better one? Steve Jobs toiling away in my garage building the Apple One. Like that's not what's happening. Like, but because of the risk that I took to open up and say, I want to do this. Like I think I could do this better, or I think I can do this differently. And because I was willing to ask for help, is another thing that entrepreneurs do is they recognize they can't do everything, right? Elon Musk, Steve Jobs, they didn't do everything. They asked for help and hired people and then received that help. I was able to craft a product and a program that has helped people go further in 12 weeks than they had in the preceding 12 years, right? And like, that's like, I don't rely on that solely for my income, but does it help? Oh, hell yes.
But also too, as an entrepreneur, and we talk about freedom, you have the freedom to either deploy your skills and products for yourself specifically, or to go and help other people on their journey through whether you're working with them or, part of their team or whatever. Then you're like, yeah, I have skill sets and I can use them. Yes. Sound a bit like Liam Neeson. Then I will find you. But you can deploy those skill sets anywhere, and you have the freedom because you've opened your mind to a world of opportunities versus this is my square. This is where I'm staying. This is what I'm meant to be. So I think that's an important thing that you raise. Just because you say I'm an entrepreneur doesn't mean you can't do other things for other people.
Yeah.
If you have a look, Richard Branson has a lot of fingers in a lot of pies. And, he's doing things that are helping other people and contributing to their success versus, coming up with his own ideas and things that he wants to do. It's that concept of freedom. And that can be mind-blowing and uncomfortable as well.
And I kind of want to step back for a moment, though, because Sam, you brought up a very good point. Entrepreneurs have to take risks, right? Like that's part of it. And we've talked about how, we need to fail in order to learn and go forward and all of that. If you are a coach, though, that is currently in your safe box of your affiliate and only coaching classes and just starting to have maybe that little nudge of like, I know I want to do more, but I'm not quite sure what, right? And they're not at that point of the risk because all they know, right, is to not take risks. You want to keep people as safe as possible in that hour, right? So that's a very interesting concept to have to wrap their brain around as an individual who, if that's all they've known so far.
Yeah.
Right. And they're starting to ask the questions and maybe go like, could I do this full time? I can't coach. We've had the conversation. You can't coach classes full time. That's not going to do enough.
Right.
But if they're starting to maybe tap into those waters of like, okay, so what's my thing? Like, what am I doing? Wait, I have to take risks, but I thought I was supposed to keep everybody safe and not take risks. Like that alone is going to take a little bit of like, how can I take a risk without risking others? Right. Like, and that reflection is going to be huge and is going to take some time.
One, it's good that you brought that up because so that's a high level concept specific to coaching as well. There's a classic video, Chuck Carswell standing at the whiteboard, giving a level 1, talking about intensity, right? And it's the technique lecture. And so, on one side is speed and the other side is technique. And like, which one do you want? Well, you want both, right? I want you to move as well as possible. And then at the same time, I want you to ratchet up the speed until that technique, those mechanics fall below a certain acceptable level. And then we roll back and you train at that speed for a little while and you get really good. And so you ratchet up the speed a little bit more and then it starts to fall apart again. And so you roll back a little bit. It's this constant adjustment back and forth. And as a coach anyone who's listening, who's going to study for their level 4, pay attention. Application of threshold training and correct implementation of scaling in a group environment demands that you understand that athlete, what they are doing in the class, how that ties into what the intended stimulus of the workout is, and getting them via cues and corrections in the earlier part or via encouragement or whatever through coaching to ride that line, that bleeding edge of going as fast as humanly possible because we want intensity. That's where the results are, but not doing so beyond a certain acceptable level of risk. Right. And even CrossFit will acknowledge that it's not a sharp cutoff. It's this gray area that you want to kind of live inside of. And so it's hard for coaches to get to that level. You've got to really pay attention and dial in and get there. It's going to demand the same level of kind of nuancey, granular approach when you think about entrepreneurship, right? Yes, you are going to have to risk just a little bit. And we've talked about this previously. Failure happens. Like anyway, and if you don't think that happens, like tell me the last time you failed a PR back squat attempt, right? Or like a PR snatch attempt. Maybe not even a PR snatch attempt, just the day when the snatches weren't happening. Or when you're double unders. Did it mean that you would
never snatch again?
Exactly. Like, and this is one of our first key takeaways. You must embrace failure as a stepping stone to success. In the same way that nobody walks in with a 5-minute mile and a 300-pound snatch, you cannot expect your entrepreneur or intrapreneurship journey to net you 6 figures immediately. You're going to take a swing and you're going to miss.
Well, our FitFilliate Instagram today, you will fail, you will learn, you will grow.
Yeah, absolutely. And like yes, you will fail, but if you quit, you lose. The only way you don't lose is if you don't quit. So you got to learn, right? And you've got to grow from that learning. And you grow by going back and trying again and implementing a new approach. It's part of the journey. It's absolutely necessary.
It's that learning and growing. I mean, if we didn't learn from the dudes that were learning to fly by having wax wings and got a little too close to the sun and realized that was not the way to do it,
right,
then we're not flying around the world on these super jumbo jets. And it started with, hey, let's make some wings out of wax and let's see where it goes.
Yeah.
Like that is where it started. So if it wasn't for those failures and then someone else looks at that and goes, no, I don't think wax is a thing. Let's try something else. And then it just evolved until eventually, we are gifted with the magic of flight.
Yeah.
In a form. So it's taking that and realizing that that's a stepping stone that's now made you one step closer to where you want to be because you've already eliminated an option right there.
Absolutely. And by the way, that's how we define learning, is being presented with the exact same circumstances and exhibiting a different behavior. You have not learned if you do the same thing over and over again, which, going back to the definition of insanity, doing the same thing, expecting different results. We could all admit that, like, if you crashed and burned because your wings were wax and melted and or caught on fire, and then you're like, sounds like I should try that again. Like, that sounds pretty crazy, man.
My favorite reference for something like that is like Bart Simpson and the electrified cupcake. It's like, ow, 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 till he finally figures out that, like, no, but still it's like, ow, ow, ow.
Yeah.
And you've got to learn to move on and go, actually, well, that's really hurting me now. So something's not working here.
Absolutely.
What do I do differently? Because clearly that thing is still important for me to achieve. So now what do I do differently? What do I switch up?
Yeah.
So I think that's a powerful thing, is being able to embrace but also not see failure as failure. Failure is failure if you stop. It's like, here's a learning opportunity. I mean, the first time your toddler fell over, he'd be like, well, walking's overrated, not doing that, can't do it, stop.
Yeah.
Like,
I think
it's an opportunity.
Yeah, for us, when you have those failures or something wasn't as maybe it wasn't a total failure, but it was just like, wow, I thought this was going to get way more momentum or be way more popular, whatever. It's like, okay, don't just go, okay, well, that didn't work, let me try the next thing. Okay, why didn't that work? What was successful about the thing that I did, and what could I have done differently to propel that further along?
Yeah.
And then, you make the changes and maybe you try that same thing again.
Yeah.
Just with a few changes. But if you just go, oh, that didn't work, and you go, let me try something, like, you're never going to learn those lessons to be able to continue moving forward.
Well, and that's one of our other big takeaways, is the power of continuous learning. So we could talk about, like, the power of continuous learning and adaptability. First of all, it's not the power of, it's just required. Because you're not going to be able to continue to do the thing and be successful at any point if you don't learn from your failures. And so, like, if we accept that as a given, we as coaches, we know this. Like, you come in and someone tells you, so I work for gymnastics staff, so I have my own exposure to the crazy things that people learn for how to do a pull-up or how to do a bar muscle up, whatever it ends up being. And you don't know what you don't know until someone shows you a different way, right? If you learn something and then you go away and you don't change the behavior, did you learn anything? Right? So, like, you have opportunities to learn things and implement how you implement that knowledge in your day-to-day class. The same thing with your entrepreneurial journey. You take a swing, you miss, and maybe your miss isn't like a 100% miss. Maybe it's just like a 90% miss, which means there was 10% of something that went right. And Ashley's question is really important. Like, very few things are like total bombs, right?
Yeah.
A couple movies from the 80s, maybe, No. So, like, no, never.
Never.
So asking what went right and being like, okay, from that, I can learn something. There's something here that people are attracted to, that is not a total turnoff for them, and that works. Okay. I can fold that, and it's another thing we talk about, repeat successful actions, fold that and more of that stuff into my next iteration. And maybe I'll go from 10% win to 50% win, And even if you multiply it by a factor of 5 and you get closer, that's better than, oh, well, it failed, so I'm done.
And I think that's, important to then understand that of, okay, pick yourself up, dust yourself off, take the lesson, build from it, and go again.
Yeah.
And again, we're going to keep banging on about it until people get on board, but get a coach. Get a coach. It's going to help you, pick yourself up, recognize what was the win, not what was, the loss. And also, okay, well, what's next from here now?
Mm-hmm.
How do you build? And I guess that kind of almost leads into, the next sort of takeaway we wanted is, be proactive rather than reactive.
Yeah.
Because if you're just going to live in that world of reactivity, then everything's a loss. Everything's a failure because you're just reacting to what's happened rather than going, how do I change this so it's different? How will tomorrow be different to today?
Yeah. And we can take that even a step further. So here's a little homework assignment. So if you're a coach and if you're looking to actually do something, right? And you're not sure what to do and you don't have a product or anything like that, right? Asking for help can look like a lot of different things, right? One of the ways that we talk about constantly is we provide a coaching model where people can come to us and they say, this is where I'm at. This is where I want to get to. We coach them. We don't provide them a cookie cutter answer. We coach them in the direction of their success, right? By basically removing all the little boxes they've put on their brain. Another thing that you can do on your own, and it's going to sound terrifying because you're going to have to talk to human beings, is you can go network, right? So that doesn't mean you have to go to a Marriott hotel exhibition hall somewhere and do the awkward mingle with your drink in your hand. You can almost certainly, there is someone, a colleague of yours who you follow on the internet or they follow you or both. You can reach out with them and be like, hey, I really like your stuff. I love especially how you talk about X, Y, or Z. I was wondering, would you be open to some kind of collaboration where we could talk about, or exchange pieces of content or pieces of information? I think it would be helpful for your audience. And I know that my audience would love to see more of what you have. That's a simple mechanism built into Instagram. The power of a collaborative post on a number of levels is a great way to generate some kind of forward momentum. And if they say no, okay, that's okay. Nobody else will know except you and that person. So you can try it with someone else, right? It's not like you asked them to marry you in front of everybody at the Trevi Fountain in Italy, It didn't end up on social media. There's not a YouTube video somewhere of it.
And it's true. It's, I just had a thought bubble in my brain, which sort of moved on, but it is. I know it moved on.
It went on holiday.
It just left the building. Selvers won't be back. But when we talk about being an entrepreneur and being open to opportunities, it is very much that being proactive. What does the world need before? What can I put out there before someone realizes that they need that widget or that thing? It's 1985, none of us knew we needed Instagram. Well, arguably, we probably still don't. But, nobody knew until they started. Someone sat in their bedroom and created a thing. They're like, yeah, this is something that I need and can leverage. Or even, God forbid, the internet.
I was going to say, I think in 95, most people were wondering if that AOL thing was going to work out.
ICQ Messenger and stuff in the
right.
Right. But it's people suddenly realize, we don't need mobile phones. What do you need a phone that's like you got to carry in a backpack on your shoulders? Well, until people started using it, going, this is accessible. So someone had that idea before someone else realized that they needed it.
Yeah.
And that's where the scary part of being an entrepreneur is I've never seen this widget or this whatever or phrase this way. I don't know if people need this.
Yeah.
But it's that belief that getting it and then people become aware of it and then like, yeah, this is amazing. Rather than going, oh yeah, pull-up programs, they're really in at the moment. I'm going to do one of those. Infinitely harder, if you're trying to copy someone else's template and just copy paste what they do.
Sure.
Rather than this is, and to a degree, this is the whole nature of CrossFit, and your affiliate is unique, and you do it the way that you see fit, rather than going, Sam CrossFit down the road, how does he do it? I'm just going to do what he does.
Right.
That's never going to work because nothing aligns. It's being that proactive, going, what is the need here that I can fill?
And you can do that in a way that allows you to do similar things or talk about the same thing and have different audiences and still reach it. But Lisa's right. You need to still be you, right? Like, inauthenticity is visible. It's oh God, it's so obvious. And you know it. When someone is like putting on a show and they've got the smile with the dead eyes like this, and it's like they're smiling, they're doing it's it's like cheerleaders, right? Cheerleaders who are in the middle of a routine and they're smiling because they know they need to smile, but it's like from here up, it's like a shark. They're just dead. And so like that's people know. And so we've talked about this before, like understanding your niche. What is the thing that drives you? Like, what are you interested in? Why do you want to talk about those things? That is all things that are going to help you be you. And nobody can compete with you in being you. Brett Fikowski is never going to be able to talk about, addiction and recovery. I don't know anything about Brett Fikowski's story, but I've never heard him say, I'm an alcoholic. So I'm going to assume that he's not. And therefore, he's never going to be able to talk about how someone's journey through addiction and recovery can be augmented and enhanced by regular exercise. Right? I got one over on Brett Fikowski. What you got now, Canadian boy? I love Brett Fikowski, by the way.
We all he's a good human. But you're right. That is, and we often talk, and I know that you guys have heard me talk about it to you at various times, that your weakness or your story is your superpower.
Yeah.
So what you might perceive as your weakness or your, something that's less than optimal, I guess, that's your superpower.
Yeah.
So I think that if people could embrace that and go, well, okay, I can help people like me who've been through this. Everything works a lot, it makes it a little bit smoother.
Yeah.
I just think that that's an important aspect to look at, is embracing what is your superpower and understanding that gives you a place to serve and to provide.
For sure.
And opportunities.
Yeah.
If you want to embrace that. And like you said, Sam, hold your feet to the fire.
Yeah. I mean, your risk appetite is your risk appetite, but I can promise you, I can guarantee you this. If you're like, well, I don't know what I can do or what I should do or how much of something I should do, I can guarantee nothing changes if nothing changes. Period. Full stop. You do not get to get anything new, extra, awesome, more, anything like that if you don't take some steps to change what you are doing.
Yep.
And that's the only guarantee I can make about anything in entrepreneurship.
And well, I guess the other thing that we can touch on is it worth it?
Is that a question? Are you asking me that?
I'm asking you, I'm asking Ash, and I'm asking people to ponder that. Like, is it worth it?
Okay, so for real though, do you want an answer? Because I got
that's it's just weird, awkward silence. I thought I didn't ask what the meaning of life was. Is it worth it?
So what I have realized, short of spending more time with my kids, right? Short of that, there is maybe nothing that is more valuable than working with other coaches and working with people who can have broad-ranging and far-reaching positive effects in the world, right? Like I could do that with my kids, and the potential that I have to like have a positive impact on the world with my kids because the number of people they will touch in their lifetime, like I'll never match that number. But professionally speaking, operating at a high level as an entrepreneur and providing real substantive change in the life of my clients, providing real substantive change in the lives of coaches who come and work with me, and I show them how to run these programs with their clients, providing real substantive change to the lives of people who are coaches day to day, and they just want to be better for their people and get their people their first pull-up, or, understand why their people aren't getting their first pull-up, something like that. Like, all of those things have come about because of an entrepreneurial mindset. I would never trade any of those things. Right? I can live in a box 50 hours a week, and I can know 250 people, and I can know everything about them, and I can have a dramatic effect on those people's lives, but it stops at that 250. And so when I think about the time versus impact relationship, I have been able to touch far more people's lives adopting an entrepreneurial mindset, despite the risks, despite the difficulties, despite the uncomfortable nature of having to face my own fears, than I ever would have left to my own devices.
And I really like all of that stuff you covered, Sam, because not once did you mention money. It has given you, money's great. We need money. We've all got bills to pay. But having that mindset has given you things of far greater value and freedom to pursue those things as well.
Yeah. But I'd be remiss if I said I don't also make more money.
Yeah. And but I think we've found in our journeys, once everything else is aligned, then the money follows. If you go out seeking just the dollars, then you tend to have a few more headaches along the way.
Yeah.
Well, and if you consider the fact that, majority of the average person in America works 8 to 10 hours a day. For most of their lives, you spend 6 to 8 hours sleeping. So that means a majority of your life is spent working.
Yeah.
If you hate your job and you're literally working just to work, like, that's not a life that's for me. No. I left my affiliate a couple months ago, and I have been exploring next steps, and it's been scary as hell. This is like the scariest part of my entire phase, because I don't have any set plan or any set regimen right now. But it's also been the most awakening. I've spent the most time with my kids. I've become a better parent. I've had more clarity with what I want in my future.
Preach.
And, I have no regrets about that.
Yeah.
Whatsoever.
Still terrifying to do, though.
It's terrifying. I'm scared out of my mind.
Yeah.
But I feel like I'm actually living life, and I'm not just existing and doing the things day in and day out and day in and day out.
I know we're coming close to the edge here, but this is a really important thing. Has anyone ever heard the yin yang, like order chaos relationship described? There's a great psychiatrist out of Canada, and he describes it like this. He's like, so you see the yin and the yang, right? So it's the white side and the dark side. Light, white represents order, dark represents chaos, right? So the oldest relationship that we have in our understanding. In each of those, there is a dot, right? So in the light, there is the dot. It represents the potential for chaos that exists all the time in order. And in the dark, in the chaos, there's a dot of white. It's the potential for order that exists in the chaos. Humans are most engaged when they straddle the line. 1 foot in order, in something that is known, in something that is stable, in something that is secure. 1 foot in chaos, right? Where it's you can't turn off. You can't become an automaton. You've got to stay engaged. You've got to stay turned on. You've got to, like, it's just enough to keep you on the edge, And it's those times where you stick a foot in chaos, it's going to be a little scary, right? But to your point, I'm a better parent. I spend more time with my kids. It's terrifying to do the things that allow me to be a better parent and spend more time with my kids, right? And so it sounds like Ashley's right on the line where she is most engaged.
And that seems like a really good note to put a pin in this one. It's a topic that can be daunting, a concept that can be daunting, but I think our key takeaway is really important, that about being proactive and embracing, failing or perceived failing as an opportunity to grow and as part of the process, and get help to help you navigate along the way and help move you out of the way, and someone who's going to point out that the blind just moves if you just pull on the cord.
And get you out of your own way, because we don't even see it when we do it sometimes, but we get in our way so many times. I don't know from experience.
There is no box. You invented the box.
That's correct. Well, there's that experiment, isn't it? You can do a tape box on the floor and a cat will go in and sit in it because it's like, oh, it's a box. No, it's not an actual box. It's just some tape on the floor, but that's where they'll go and sit because they believe if I fits, I sits, and this is my box. This is where I belong. So
absolutely, cat trap.
On that note, take the tape up off the floor and be open to opportunities. All right, team. Good chats. I'll see you next week.
Bye.